Hey everyone, Dan here. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. And keep in mind that these are my own thoughts, opinions, and ideas. These are not meant to be, nor should you take them as investment or trading advice in any way, shape, or form. Do your own due diligence, put in the work for yourself, and make your decisions based on that. Enjoy. All right, folks, here we are on Sunday, February 9th. We're going to take a look at NIO today. So NIO has these purple downside extension levels that we put in. It's been working off of them really well. We had this 405 in there. It dipped down to 401, but worked off of it nicely and then came up to this 436. To me, 436 is still the most critical level. We see that drawing back here. The importance of the 436, right? Support, flip to resistance, caught off of that uptrend support, that slight uptrend support, and then worked its way back through here and then ultimately drew all the way back down. So even though it pushed up to that 771 level, drew itself back down to that 436. So sort of what I used to call those magnetic levels, right? And you see that initiating all the way back here in April of 2024, sort of building the importance of this level as it tried to catch support there, gave way, and then reclaimed it, and that gave way to some longer term motion to and through and then below that level. So 436, to me, that's the key component. We zoom in here on the 10 minutes, you can see it just it's putting in its time, right? But in a way, this is what you want to see it doing. You want to see it putting its time at that level, working through all of the exhaustive sells, the exhaustive buys, and then giving it an opportunity to leave it behind. Now, the question is going to be which way does it leave it behind? This uptrend support's still looming down here, but that still puts it down in the threes. So if you're a NIO bull, obviously you hope that it doesn't need to come down to there. This downtrend resistance, it's leaving behind at the moment. Now, we put in an aggressive downtrend resistance here. If we smoothen it out a little bit and we capture these candles, right, it's going to look a little bit different. So if I stretch this here to include those prior candles here and take a more conservative view of the downtrend resistance, then we are still just barely, but still captured in the downtrend resistance. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out now that it gave an initial push through that more aggressive downward resistance. Can it overcome this sort of smoothened out, more conservative downtrend resistance? If it can, and it overtakes that 436, to my eye, we have 455 as a next level, and then 536, though I have no doubt there's a level right about here, probably just as you approach 5. That would make sense. So under 5, but it's the psychological approach to $5, I think, is where there could be a lot of activity there. There could be a lot of selling pressure that comes in, or some significant amount of selling pressure that could come in, just due to the nature, again, of the psychological $5 level. Are we really going to push it over $5, right? That's the question that enters into the mind, and then you see where it sort of plays off of there. Now, if NIO were to get some great news, something from an earnings report, some sort of macro catalyst, or, who knows, some partnership, whatever, could it just sort of gap through some of these levels, maybe sort of make 5 sort of a non-issue, at least for the short term, because it just kind of gaps over it or gaps through it? Yeah, that could definitely happen as well. In that case, we have 536 here. If it gets above 536, first of all, congratulations, bulls. Maybe something is happening in your favor. We'll see. You've been fooled plenty of times in the past, right? But if it does, then we can come back and add some levels in beyond that. Now, EMAs wise, here's where we're at. Having a hard time still getting the short term, the 8 EMA, to get some motion through the 21, right? That first bullish crossover. But it's putting in a lot of attempts. Like, it's continuously knocking on the door. And the question that I have, I say this in both directions, when you're getting persistent resistance to the upside, I know it can seem bleak and it can seem like it's just kind of never-ending sell pressure and no one's coming in to buy. But I do think at some point here, the selling pressure, it gets exhausted, and there's going to be a door that has the potential to be open there. Now, can NIO walk through it? That'll be that'll be the question, right? That'll be probably something that catalyzes other forces as well. Like we talked about the macro forces, maybe some potentials for catalysts, fundamentals, earnings reports, so on and so forth. But it's trying, right? It keeps knocking on the door. That 8 gets pushed off the 21, but it's really close. So how many times can that sort of engagement happen before the selling pressure that clearly exists there is exhausted and there's some motion through it? And then once there is motion through it, what happens, right? It's a long, it's not a quick, it's not a magic bullet, it's not a quick fix, however you want to think of it. For now, at least, you see that 183 EMA, this would be really interesting. We were talking about that approach to 5, that level being around 490, 495 from the candlesticks. If the 183 EMA, this gray one here, does dip down a little bit more and gets sort of within that range, right? That 480 to 495. That could be quite interesting. So that would sort of be a double whammy of resistance. So that could end up to be pretty tough for NIO to overcome, but it might also be a nice confluence of events where it gives people positioning to offload on while giving NIO like I said, sort of the open door opportunity to have some motion to at least dissolve some of the selling pressure that is just sort of buried under at the moment. Volume-wise, there's a lot to work through here. So, is the selling pressure going to persist in here? This pretty strong volume, and then things smooth it out, right? But that's the question. It's like, can you get this motion up toward 5, right? And this is obviously where things are very sticky. There's very strong support here. But what do we know about that? It then becomes strong resistance. So it's experiencing that strong resistance right now, but like I said, it keeps knocking on the door. It does have a slight uptrend support forming here. And can that sort of turn itself into something resembling like a flat top, right? Where we have this uptrend support meeting one of these volume shelves or one of these resistance levels, and can it pop it through to the upside, sort of be the savior or the motion that NIO needs. Now, not large scale not huge numbers here in the large scale orders, but a bit coming out today, but nothing that's outpacing the large scale orders coming in the previous days. And then position wise, if folks are willing to still come into NIO, I'm talking about the folks that are already in NIO, there's only about 10 or 11% of them that are profitable at the moment. So what's the willingness look like for folks who are already into dollar cost average down? That might be sort of a good nexus point where if it can get some good motion, if it can look promising, does some of that volume, that buying pressure increase because folks start to have some faith, even if they have faith that, hey, maybe it's a short-term run, but I can just get myself in, help this pop, and then take advantage of the pop and get myself out. Now, I'm not saying that maybe this is not the be-all, end-all. Maybe this is not the next 10-year curve for NIO that's going to kick off right now. But there is an interesting confluence of events that seem to sort of be coming in at the moment. The question is just going to be, can NIO take advantage, and are like I said, the tertiary forces, so we're talking about the macro forces, fundamentals, catalyst, earnings report, can any of those come and help out? Here in the think or swim set of things, it is triggering at the moment. And not only that, but it's like a re-trigger and fire. So we see trigger, fire, nothing happened really. Trigger, fire, nothing really happened. Triggering again. So could this be the trigger and fire that sets things off? You see back here, it had similar-ish motion. Trigger, fire, right? And yeah, there's a little motion, but like not an outsized move, not the big move you want. And then here you get a re-trigger, and on that re-trigger and fire, that took the price from like 4 or maybe below 4 up to that 771. That's where you saw that really big move. And it's looking like it's kind of getting into that range again, sort of getting that same re-trigger motion. So when the fire comes, what happens? Now, just keep in mind, this is looking for an outsized move. It doesn't mean that it's going to run to the upside. It just happened to run to the upside here. There's probably triggers and fires that we could find on NIO previously where it just shot to the bottom. This one, for example, is fired here at
5, above 5, and it drew itself down over the course of that fire all the way to 361. So percentage-wise, they're a huge, huge loss. But yeah, interesting that it is putting in that re trigger. And when the fire comes, we'll see if it brings anything. But this downtrend resistance, we shifted it a little bit, like I said, to incorporate more of the candles, the more conservative look. But this is the one that's sort of like the true break-free moment, right? It tried here, wicked off of it, and now it's re-engaged with it today. On Friday. And so the question then becomes, can it make any motion through that this coming week, that is meaningful? All right, folks, so I hope that you have had a nice weekend and that you have a great start to your week ahead. And as always, I appreciate you watching, and I will see you in the next video.